Do you feel this game is as scrubby as people say compared to other fighting games? No. Let me tell you, I know that you and your brother are new to fighting games, Justin. So let me tell you, don't listen to anything that Mortal Kombat players say. Just nothing. In fact, take what they say as a signpost of what is completely not true. Yeah, Mortal Kombat players have, well, I don't know. I've never been too shy on the stream about sharing my opinion about the NRS community. And the past 6 months of spending more time with them since I've been almost exclusively playing Mortal Kombat has not changed my mind. Well, let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. Let me not just dunk on people. Let's have a productive conversation. So why would this game be scrubby? What would your definition of that be? A lot of scrubby mechanics? All right. So yeah, let's talk about it. What is a scrubby mechanic? And what do you think that looks like in Mortal Kombat? Fatal Blow? Okay. Fatal Blow, I agree, is pretty dumb. It's dumb that you get it automatically, and it's dumb that you get it back if it whiffs, right? I'm not a fan of Fatal Blow. However, as far as a comeback mechanic goes, it's not that bad, right? And the reason it's not that bad is both get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's available to both players. So, it's true that sometimes you'll be playing in round 1, and you'll have 40% life, and your opponent will have 2% life, and they'll, you know, just hit you with a 1, 2, 3 fatal blow and kill you. And it's really annoying. But then, in round 2, you have fatal blow and they don't, so it balances out. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as other comeback mechanics, right? Like, what I think a bad comeback mechanic looks like is a comeback mechanic where it doesn't even matter if you're losing or not, because the comeback mechanic makes it so that you're not actually losing. You know what I mean? Like X Factor is a good example of that in Marvel 3. In X Factor, if you have one character with X Factor and your opponent has 3 characters, it's basically an even game, right? If you have X Factor Virgil, then it doesn't matter what your opponent has done up until that point, because they can pop X Factor and kill you before you even get to use your own X Factor. You see what I mean? I think some V triggers in Street Fighter V dip into that category, like Abigail's V trigger, or at least how it used to be, or like G's V trigger, you know? Bad comeback mechanics are comeback mechanics where you can lose by a lot, and then use the comeback mechanic to make up that ground and win before your opponent can even use their own version of it. Abigail can lose 80% of his life, pop V-Trigger, hit you twice, and kill you before your V-Trigger is even ready to use. You know what I mean? That is not good. But that's not how Fatal Blows work, right? Fatal Blows in Mortal Kombat are supers that do, you know, a bit of damage. If you hit it raw, you get 30%. If you combo into it, you usually get like 35 to 40%. Some characters get like 45% on the upper end, you know. Generally, you will not be winning by a lot and then get hit by Fatal Blow and die without the chance to use your own Fatal Blow, right? I don't love it, but I don't think it's like super scrubby. If we're talking about scrubby mechanics as mechanics that allow a worse player to win over a better player, I don't think Fatal Blows do that. I don't think that you can win as a worse player. Perfect example, Scarlet's 4-4 into Fatal, does 45% and you never had the chance to use Fatal Blow. Sure you do. You can use it in the next round. Or in the previous round. She doesn't get to do it every round, she only gets to do it once a game. In the worst case scenario, it's true that she can kill you from outside of your Fatal Blow range, and it is annoying. but she cannot do that every round. She can only do it once. So that's how I feel about Fatal Blows, right? Again, I'm not a fan. I don't think they should recharge if they miss. But as a comeback mechanic, it's pretty mild. If you win the first round without Fatal Blow, you're almost guaranteed to win the third round. Well, then you lost the first round without getting hit by Fatal Blow, which means that your opponent didn't do anything scrubby. They beat you without it. Right? I mean, you can't have it both ways. There are some characters where if they get to round 3 with Fatal Blow, they have a powerful advantage, but they have to get to that point, you know? And you can use your Fatal Blow to stop them from getting to that point, if you want to. Characters that have easy access to all their crushing blows. Crushing blows. So people talk about crushing blows, but like, what even are crushing blows? They're just access to usually slightly higher damage than a normal combo. Or, like, about the same amount of damage to a normal combo. Like, people talk about crushing blows like they're such a big deal, but it completely depends on the move. Plenty of crushing blows are completely useless. And there are plenty of characters who do tons of damage without crushing blows, you know? Like Spawn, the capability to do like 40% plus with his normal B&B with no crushing blow at all. Liu Kang doesn't need bicycle hit crushing blow at all. So you're talking about something different now, right? Now you're just talking about characters having good things, which is not the same as scrubby mechanics, you know? Like, is the Liu Kang bicycle kick crushing blow good? Yeah. Is it scrubby? I don't think so. He needs to hit you with it, what, 4 times? And it doesn't do that much damage. It does, like, a little bit more than a normal combo would. Like, if you want to talk about characters being, like, too good, then that is a different conversation entirely. Spoiler alert, every game has good characters, right? That is something that you will not get away from. Every game has good characters. And every game has discourse about whether those good characters are too good or not. What else do people say is scrubby in Mortal Kombat 11? That's it? Breakaway? Okay, Breakaway, sure. Let's talk about Breakaway. What is people's problem with Breakaway? Honestly, this is something that I don't understand much of at all. Getting punished from someone else's Breakaway? Most combo extensions are not punishable. Like, I do hear people say that, right? But they say it like it's something that happens all the time. I mean, how often are you comboing someone and they break away out of your combo and stand up and punish you, right? Like, it happens for some characters, but not most characters. And for the characters that it does happen for, like Scarlet is one of them. Scarlet is one of the characters that it happens for, right? If you launch someone with Scarlet and you try to use her Blood Boil and they break away, then they can stand up and punish Scarlet for it. But what that means is, if I know my opponent has full defensive bar, I just don't do that ender, right? It's a mix-up. It's a mix-up, right? It's just another level of interactivity. If you ask me, that's the opposite of a scrubby mechanic. It's something that adds more depth to the game. Because if your opponent has full defensive bar, then you have to play a mind game of whether you want to do your max damage combo and risk getting punished, or do a safer combo that might do less damage but is safe if they break away. And if they do break away, then they basically wasted their breakaway for no reason, right? They spent their defensive bar, and because you didn't go for that ender anyway, they didn't even prevent any damage, right? So in that situation, you have basically stolen their defensive meter for free. And now, and this is the other thing, when you break away, you're in a horrible position most of the time. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're on the ground. If your opponent does the right combo, they're right in front of you. You have no defensive meter because you just spent it, which means you can't wake up roll. You can't wake up attack. You are at the mercy of your opponent. And if you get hit again, if you try to like duck or something, then now you have no breakaway. So now they can max damage punish you. You see? Didn't they buff countering breakaways? Yeah, and they added armor breakers to the game, so it's even more of a layer of depth, because if you think your opponent might breakaway, then you can try to armor break them with some characters. You know what I mean? Look, man, you cannot tell me this game has scrubby mechanics and this game won't let me just mindlessly mash my max damage punish every single time. And that makes it scrubby. Do you see what I mean? Like, it just doesn't add up to me. I guess by my definition of the words you're using, what you're describing sounds like more depth, not less. You know? It sounds like more room for a skilled player to be skilled. More room for a player to use the knowledge that they have of the matchup to win. It doesn't take away depth from the game at all. I opened you up. Why is it a mind game for me? If you don't want to play a mind game, then just do a safe combo. If they have full defensive bar and you don't want to play a mind game, just right, just uppercut them. It's no big deal. Or if you do want to play a mind game, then play the mind game. You don't have that many safe combos. Sucks. That's a downside of your character. That's how characters work, right? Some characters are good at things, and some characters are not. When I get 2-1-2 with Scarlet, I literally can only get uppercut to be safe on breakaway, right? Because my armor breaker doesn't work in that situation. Her main launch, if they have a defensive bar, I have, like, no combo at all. That's just how it is. Then you have characters like Cabal that can combo into his hook armor breaker and get, like, max damage every time. Isn't most gameplay in fighting games a mind game? Yeah, that's what fighting games are. Fighting games are about mind games. This is it's just a mind game. If your opponent doesn't have defensive meter, then you don't have to worry about it. Then you can just do your combo. If they do, then it's another layer. That exists in tons of fighting games. Tons of fighting games, right? Killer Instinct has combo breakers. Injustice, remember Injustice 2? When they had those, what were they called? Clashes that you could use, right? Like the whoosh, and then they would clash, and then they would be like, you're coming with me. And then the other person would be like, boxing glove arrow, right? Remember that? There were moves in that game that were unclashable. So when you launched someone and they had their clash available, there was a mind game of, do I do the less damaging combo that they can't clash, or the more damaging combo that they can clash? In a game like Melee, every single hit, you can SDI it, you can normal DI it, you can floor hug, you can wall tech, right? Like, Melee has like a million things that you can do after you get a hit. Mortal Kombat players have this idea that's like, if I get a hit, I like deserve to do whatever I want, you know? Like, if I get a hit because I am playing Fujin and I did back two from 3/4 screen and I clipped my opponent who was walking, then I deserve to get a full combo punish every single time, you know? Like, it's my God-given right to get my 30% full screen wall carry. Because I won neutral fair and square. But that's just not how fighting games work, you know? Not all fighting games. And it doesn't mean it's scrubby, it just means that sometimes you have to play the game against your opponent. Yeah, if you want to play a game where if you get a hit, you just get to hit them for free and there's nothing they can do about it, there are plenty of games like that. Dragon Ball, there's Grand Blue. In Grand Blue, there's no combo breaker whatsoever. You know what I mean? In Grand Blue, if you get hit, and Grand Blue has damage way higher than anything Mortal Kombat 11 has to offer. Let me tell you. In Grand Blue, if you get hit by the wrong move, you can literally take 70% or more of your life, right? If you get jumped in on by Ladiva, or if she anti-airs you with a 2H, or if Vastiva, or what's his name, Vasaraga hits you with the right? Or the armor crush, and he has super available, your life bar is melting. And that game has no break at all. There's no burst, there's no break, there's no combo breaker of any kind. If you get hit in that game, then you just die. So if you want to play a game where it's like, you know, just don't get hit. If I win neutral, then I deserve to kill you. Then you can play Grand Blue, you know? What was wrong with the MKX combo breaker? I mean, nothing was wrong with it, but NRS always changes their games, right? It wasn't in Injustice 2 either. What was wrong with the Injustice 2 Clash? NRS just changes their games. When they make a new game, they put new stuff in it. That's just how it works. Even if it's good. They change it if people like it. They change it if people don't like it. They try to address people's concerns. But NRS has always been a company about new ideas and innovation in every game that they make. Ever since Mortal Kombat 9. Does Grand Blue have a comeback mechanic besides the other super you get at low health? No. It's just that. And I mean, that is, for some characters, quite a comeback mechanic, you know? For characters like Lowain, for example, he can definitely be losing, and then pop his MILF, and then come back and save the day. Or like Charlotta, who just has absurd damage if she gets the right hit into her super. But yeah, there's no like rage or you know, like install that you get in Grand Blue. Grand Blue is pretty light on comeback mechanics. And that's just because the damage is already so high that comebacks are pretty likely anyway in Grand Blue, you know? In Grand Blue, the damage is so high that it doesn't really matter what the life is. It matters, like, what your position is, right? Like, if you're playing your opponent and they have 50% more life than you, but you knock them down in the corner, usually you're the one who's favored to win that round in Grand Blue. I remember I was having a conversation on Twitter recently, but they were talking about flawless blocking on hit, right? Because they were so offended at the concept that they could, like, lose after being plus. You know what I mean? Like, they could be plus, and then they could get reversaled and get hit, and they were so offended. And I was like, man, you should definitely give Soul Calibur a try sometimes. You should try playing Soul Calibur and being like plus 10 and trying to pressure your opponent and then getting GI'd and getting scooped backwards and thrown out of the ring and instantly dying from 100%. But that's how it is, you know? It sounds BS. It's just how it is, man. That's how fighting games work. NRS players have this concept that they should be entitled to their pressure or their damage or their combo or their knockdown. And that's just not how fighting games are, right? In fighting games, they're about mind games. They're about making reads. They're about outplaying your opponent. Sometimes, just because you have the advantage doesn't mean there's literally nothing that could go wrong. Sometimes you'll get hit and your opponent will mash. Or you will hit your opponent and they will mash. And if you don't respect the mash, then you'll get hit by their mash. That doesn't mean the game is broken. That just means you made the wrong play. If you thought they were going to mash, then you should have frame trapped them. Then they would have gotten hit. Right? If you are complaining about your opponent waking up with buttons every time, then meaty them and they'll die. Like, people are so offended at the concept of their opponent not, like, playing, like, by the rules. But fighting games are not, like, a martial arts exhibition, right? Like, the goal is not to be the prettiest and the cleanest and to put on the best show. The goal is to beat your opponent. And if you think that mashing out of plus frames is going to result in you beating your opponent, then that is the right move to make. People don't get it. NRS players especially don't get it. There are complaints like this in every community, but NRS players, more than any other community that I've been a part of, refuse to accept that there are no, like, there's no code of conduct in a fighting game, right? If your opponent does something and it works, it's not their fault. Like, you know, you can't be mad at them for doing something that worked, right? It's dumb.